And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Bernie Sanders did a racism, a microaggression. Does someone's opinion matter more just because they're black or gay? In this video, I'm going to talk about how the left handles conversations about racism, centered around a recent clip of Bernie Sanders on Andrew Schulz podcast. Andrew Schulz, not a very cool dude. I don't like him at all, but I will get back to that later. Please don't cancel me. I have the best intentions. As a proud Democrat, liberal, socialist, progressive, left-winger, communist, whatever conservatives call us nowadays, if we cannot handle these conversations, we are frankly cooked. First off, a little bit about myself. I'm from a 99% white area. So white where me being tan got me called Osama bin Laden and Muhammad in the summers. And you can see me. I'm not very tan. And you can hear me. I'm very white. I definitely grew up racist. My first experiences with black culture were the autobiography of Malcolm X, and my favorite album growing up was To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar. I wrote a paper about that in college. It's a very typical white progressive experience if you're a rap fan. Leaving racism was not easy. It really was not easy. When you're a kid, believe it or not, you don't know anything about the world. So if you grow up around people telling you lies about black people being inherently violent, having extra muscles in their legs to jump higher, being closer to animals and monkeys and all these other terrible racist lies, those things, when they're ingrained in your brain at such a young age, it's really hard to break out of them. It really is very difficult to deconstruct that, and it takes a lot of self-evaluation and a lot of learning and being open to learning and hearing from others. I'm very lucky. I had good parenting, a good head on my shoulders, the ability to put myself in someone else's shoes, and I really do care about other people to a very large extent. I've gone through trauma in my life at a very young age, which forced me to grow up earlier. So growing up earlier, having to become emotionally strong, made me more, I guess you could say, receptive of conversations when it came to systemic racism and the plight of black people in America. I want to express the best that I can. The experiences I've gone through have allowed me to understand the difference between someone who is truly hateful and someone who is on the wrong path and possibly being manipulated by very bad actors. And I want to make sure our rhetoric as progressives on the left, liberals, whatever it is, I want to make sure our rhetoric is not helping push people towards white nationalism, because the current social isolation pushed by social media and many other factors is causing especially white men in different rural areas to go to these radical ends of the ideological spectrum into very dangerous territories. I'm recording this video with no script or anything, just off the top of the head, so let me be very clear. This does not mean giving a pass to racism. It does not mean subjecting anyone to discrimination. It does not mean forcing anyone to educate others when they don't feel comfortable doing so. But for people who do want to fight racism in a different way, then I want to have this conversation, and I think I have a decent approach on how we can have aggressive conversations in a way that does not shut anyone's brain off. Speaking of which, let's get into Bernie Sanders on Andrew Schulz's podcast. By the way, please make sure you drop a like, comment, and subscribe if you appreciate this kind of content, and let's connect in my description down below.
We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement, where your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the.
Wow. Okay.
That was just, they were sitting there. We had a lot of young people. We had people of color, and they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
Okay, so Bernie's campaign was a way that many individuals like myself, from my background, it's a way we got into progressive politics and liberal democratic politics in general. And were there some Bernie supporters who fit into this category of really angry online Bernie bro who would attack people of color? For sure, that existed, but that exists everywhere. Union Democrats, many black voters are very, very, very anti-LGBTQA+, but they vote Democratic because the GOP is so much worse. Putting this issue solely on Bernie was a coordinated propaganda campaign. And also, these attacks about Bernie supporters being white men who were super racist and sexist also erased many people of color. Latino voters came out really strong for Bernie, and many of those voters would have voted for Bernie over Donald Trump. These groups, white men and Latino men, are the two groups Democrats are losing at a really fast rate, So it's not very pragmatic for Democrats to continue erasing them completely.
It's kind of interesting to that note is during this election, the podcast space, which the Democrats largely avoided, they feel had some influence in the election, and they started to label us the podcast bros. and said that we were sexist and we were racist and bigoted. It's almost like it's the exact same strategy to get you out of there.
Yeah, that's what the liberal elite China does. They run away. Look.
Okay, here's a big problem. When Democrats use a broad statement such as Bernie fosters a racist environment and his supporters are mainly racist white men who attack people of color. Okay, if you use that criticism for Bernie, then when you say it to Andrew Schulz, which Andrew Schulz does foster that community, you know, Kendrick Lamar went after Andrew Schulz in the lyrics and, don't let no white comedian talk about no black woman, that's law. Like, that was something Kendrick said about Schulz for a reason, because Andrew Schulz makes jokes about black women that are jokes, quote unquote, and the jokes are just saying that black women are disgusting and violent and they beat their partners. And that's just the whole joke, is saying things that are racist and sexist, and people laugh at it because they agree. That's a lot of right-wing humor nowadays. But if you use broad language for both of these individuals, Bernie and Andrew Schulz, you end up grouping them together. So now they seem like they agree against the liberal establishment, but they mean very different things.
I would hope that everybody who's watching the program is that we as a nation have got to end all forms of bigotry, right?
Yes.
That I start off as a basic assumption.
Unless it's to your close friends, right?
Tell me down in the comments, is it okay to make jokes about your friends if you know there's a level of comfortability there, playing off of stereotypes? Okay, I don't think extremely racist jokes are ever okay, but playing off different stereotypes or playing off of different traumas, is that okay in some circumstances? And if you say no, do you think that it can cause people like Andrew Schulz to be stubborn and be upset that you're telling him like what to say because he's like a 40-year-old man-child? Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Yeah, whether it's racism or sexism, homophobia or xenophobia, whatever it is. But, and liberal Democrats talk about that all the time. And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is the part that got Bernie Sanders in trouble.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on?
Okay, so bear with me here. This is a tough conversation. Bernie does sound dismissive. Okay, he sounds dismissive, but the key point here is what he's being dismissive towards. You cannot really tell someone's intentions based off of one singular statement. Someone who is racist can easily say those exact words like, oh, all these black people think they're God's gift to the earth. All these gays in public are turning me gay because they think they're attractive, apparently. They're turning me gay, and all these gays and blacks think they got to be so loud all the time. Like a racist would say what Bernie just said with very different intentions and being dismissive of these groups in general. The big danger here is if we hear someone say what Bernie said and we dismiss it as racist, which is what many people are doing right now. If we dismiss him as racist and add no other context, we don't talk to this person at all, the left has zero chance to do anything. If we want podcasters to be on our side and podcast hosts and podcast viewers, you need to be able to handle some language that's not going to be perfect all the time. It's going to be rough around the edges. Our job is to make sure we go in the right direction and we go deeper into these lines of inquiry to make sure someone else is not truly racist. So how can we do that? Maybe we can try talking to others and communicate, because we do not want to just dismiss someone. The moment we dismiss someone as extremely racist because they rapped along to lyrics when they were 14 on video, or because they said a joke that was really distasteful, maybe they did a microaggression. If we make it standard that we call someone racist based off of minimal context and one statement, and we give no room to grow at all, then the right-wing white nationalists, white supremacists are rubbing their hands together like, oh yes, this is perfect. Come over here, buddy, you white male. You're under attack in America right now. You saw what happened when you tried talking to them. They said you're an evil white man. And guess what? We will accept you and we will show you where the real power is. And you should not be ashamed of your whiteness. We are helping white nationalists recruit if we do not fix this.
Are you going to stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not.
not.
Those are the issues. And no one cares what color you are, what your gender is, et cetera, et cetera.
We need intersectionality. So that can include race, ethnicity, gender identity. I have a list. Class, language, religion, ability, sexuality, mental health, age. These are all the different factors that make up a person. Intersectionality is a lens through which you can see where power comes and collides, where it locks and intersects. It is the acknowledgement that everyone has their own unique experiences of discrimination and privilege. Now, what happens here in this conversation with Bernie Sanders? You can talk about, like, for example, a black woman who is, a lesbian and she's also poor. All right. Those are different things that affect that person's role in society, where different levels of power collide and intersect. Okay. So Bernie Sanders will focus on her class more. Bernie Sanders looks at class as a huge thing. Bernie Sanders still cares about her race, gender, sexuality. He still thinks those are factors, but his big focus is class. Bernie is criticizing those who reduce it down to race being a bigger point that matters over things like class. So Bernie Sanders would say, for example, you can have black leaders, but if those black leaders don't address the material conditions of black people, then they are not helping the black community, because Bernie sees the number one issue everywhere as class. The number one issue is going to be class in Bernie's mind. Did Bernie say that in an offensive way? Sure, he did sound very offensive. But if you talk about black or gay people and you say they don't have some special ability by nature of their demographics, and then you ask a further question to someone that says that, and they say, for example, well, the real problem is rap music and culture makes them so violent and they love killing each other, that person is definitely, racist, or they believe racist things. If a kid says that, they've been watching content or they have parents who are racist. So we need to adjust in conversations to make sure we can try to save people who are being indoctrinated into white nationalist beliefs. Okay. But if someone responds with, if a black woman cuts healthcare from everyone, then I'm going to criticize her. And the response is, how dare you criticize a black woman? Sometimes that can happen in settings where it doesn't necessarily make sense. Now, there are far more cases, by the way, where white men dominate all conversations. White men make up like 90% of Fortune 500 CEOs. They make up 80% of the managerial class. I believe they make up like 70-something% of Congress. We've only had, I believe, 3 or 4 black governors in America currently, which is like, that might be a high number. So there is underrepresentation, but we need to make sure we are able to redirect the conversation to where it should be. And the conversation truly lies in the area of underprivilege and oppression and uplifting voices to be heard that have historically been cut out of the conversation. But intersectionalism, we also need to make sure we include white people are also individuals that can be discriminated against, okay? When it comes to class, there are many white people who hear the word white privilege and they have not gone to a 20-year college to get a doctorate, okay? They hear white privilege and they do think, I don't have privilege just because I'm white, or toxic masculinity. I'm not toxic just because I'm a man, or racism being a foundational power structure issue and not about just prejudice. I'm not racist. I never owned slaves. Those arguments being made, and a lack of sympathy being given to white people who are oppressed, not by the same way that black people are. I guess you can share a class oppression, but when it comes to being white, you can still be poor. You can still have conditions where your job losses are so huge, mental health issues, educational deficits. There's so many different things that happen with white America that really is not paid attention to. And also for Latino Americans, the whole Bernie bro discussion completely cuts out Latino Americans. It cuts them out of the conversation. When we talk about Bernie bros only being white and being privileged and being these aggressive white guys who go attack people of color, Bernie won such a large margin of Latino voters. As far as like what he was expected to get before the elections, like he did very well with voters of color. He did not do good at all with connecting to the black community. But that does not mean Bernie only appealed to white men. And if you look at the demographics Democrats cannot reach, it's Hispanic men and white men. Those are the two groups, Latino men, white men, that Democrats cannot reach. And I believe there is a way to maintain the mission of social justice and a way to maintain these conversations in a productive way that respects everyone involved, but we can also open up our tent and bring in others who are struggling under other power structures and make sure we can share under a common goal of making America better for all people. for all communities and cutting down on these prejudices and racism and the bigotry that we do see. But I feel like we as progressives and liberals, we put up so many unnecessary roadblocks to that mission, and attacking Bernie Sanders incessantly for 8 years now on being a vicious, like, racist or sexist. If Bernie Sanders is too racist or sexist for the Democratic movement, for many Democrats, then I don't know. I guess, do you want fascism? Like, do you want it? If Bernie Sanders is racist and sexist to the point of you having to call it out every time he speaks, what are we doing? Thank you for watching. Please accept this conversation in good faith. If you disagree, you can email me at jolahtalkspolitics@gmail.com. It's in my description, my video description. If you want to donate to the channel, Jolah Politics on PayPal, Cash App, or Venmo. Really appreciated. Become a channel member. I go live every night around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, taking live calls. If you want to call earlier, email me. I might be able to start earlier. But yeah, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. And I think these convos need to be had. So please consider supporting the channel, especially if you watched this long. I'm sure I'll get hate from every side of the political arena, but I'm just trying to bring people together. If I get attacked for bringing up intersectionality, then so be it. But I appreciate everyone watching this. I appreciate all of you. Drop a like, comment, subscribe. I love seeing your messages. Join the Discord and all that kind of stuff. Thank you for watching again.